A new story from James Gray. Also follow his stories by liking and subscribing.
This are part 3 and part 4 from Dee's Angeloflage story of dateless young Jessica and a rugged, sexy, small-town guy.
Jessica Channing's big city life should be more exciting than 60-hour work weeks and popcorn nights with her girlfriends, but it's not. She has worked hard to fulfill her role as a child prodigy and graduating call ego years before her peers. She's the good girl, the brilliant girl. Unfortunately, she's also the dateless young woman. That all changes with one phone call. Jess's rigid, predictable life upends when she must visit a small, obscure town to deal with her relative's death. This isn't just any little speck of a town, though. Long-lost memories come crashing down on Jess's world when two men, the Blackard brothers, seem to lure her in. Dylan is cover model handsome and pursues Jess the minute she comes to town. Then there is tall, dark, and gorgeous Carson, who hides his own secrets behind his hardened reserve. For someone who has been governed by her own obsessive behaviors and fears, Jess lets her guard down and jumps at the opportunity to have an affair with a man she actually finds attractive for a change. There's just one problem. Jess discovers that she can't have a simple romantic fling because true passion does indeed come with some very big strings attached to it. She will have to own up to her own truths about love and face the two extraordinary men, both troubled in their own ways and both determined to have her. Following is part 1 and 2 of her story, but before we start the story, we like to ask you to press the like and subscribe button. So now grab a cup of coffee and listen to her story.
We leave my bags in his office and walk the 50 paces across the street to the diner with the sign Bonnie's. I can't help thinking of this place as something out of an old cowboy movie, even though it's green instead of dusty with Toyotas and Hondas instead of horses and, of course, a diner instead of a saloon. Something about Hera is very calming and welcoming. Inside the diner, there are quite a few patrons eating lunch at the tables and booths who all nod to Archie as we enter. Even the curvaceous, sultry-looking waitress who is running around with a water pitcher gives Archie a smile and wave as we sit at the old-fashioned counter with its chrome, swivel bucket stools. "Hi, Archie," says a pretty, blonde waitress on the other side of the counter. "Lauren, this is Jessica Channing, Ginny's niece." Archie's slow enunciation of my name makes me feel special, as if people have been waiting for my arrival. "Wow," Lauren says and puts her hand across the counter for a handshake. I take her firm grip. "It's nice to meet you," I say. "So this must be an awful shock for you," Lauren says as she hands us very large, laminated menus. "Just 2 Bonnie burgers, dear," Archie says to Lauren, handing back the menus. "Oh, unless you're a vegetarian," he says to me. "No, a burger would be great." Archie winks at Lauren as if it's her signal to scamper off before I can respond to her comment about my sad news. I suppose Archie wants to protect me, and I find that touching. We eat our delicious burgers with gusto. For a slight man, even Archie seems enamored with the half-pound of grill-ed meat that's slathered with mushrooms, brie, roasted peppers, and leeks. The waffle fries come with guacamole and a spicy mayonnaise. I am in a glutinous heaven, stuffing my mouth in a very unladylike manner as Archie slows down and begins telling me about Hera. The population is 984, and town picnics happen frequently at the end of the main street by the historic water fountain whenever the weather is nice and the mood strikes the town folk. He actually uses the term town folk, and I giggle in between bites of food. At that moment, a stout, 60-something-year-old woman comes out of the kitchen dressed in a blouse with a large flower print and an updo I think originated in the 60s when aerosol hairspray was a necessity. She rounds the corner of the counter and waddles towards us to pat Archie's back with her chubby hand. Archie introduces her as the Bonnie of Bonnie's Diner and the other waitress, the curvy brunette, as her granddaughter, Imogene. "Now you almost know everyone in town," Lauren jokes. "I hope you stay. I grew up here, and I came back every summer during school break. Imogene and I work in the diner full-time and just hang out now. It's so relaxing here compared to city life and college." I find out that Lauren and Imogene both graduated from Syracuse College last year, and they are back in Hera trying to figure out what to do next. That puts them at least a couple years older than me and new to the workforce. I don't envy them trying to find entry-level jobs with degrees in English and history. Oh boy, here's trouble, Lauren says, looking over my shoulder. I turn around to see a very cute guy walk into the diner. He's what I'd call a summer boy, the Ralph Lauren ad. A tall, tan, athletic guy who sports sun-bleached light brown curls and a casually confident air. Sure, I can surf. Sure, I play polo. Who doesn't? Sure, I scuba dive, skydive, and ski off cliffs. Everyone is saying hello to the cute guy whose name I find out is Dylan. He makes a beeline right for us as he stares at me with a big grin and perfect white teeth. He's a stunning picture of good health and attractiveness. The Hera Chamber of Commerce should consider erecting a welcome billboard at the entrance of town with Dylan's smiling face on it. I heard Archie has a visitor. He beams at me. I force the last bit of food down my throat, silently wishing I could rush off to the restroom to brush my teeth. Dylan, Jessica, Archie introduces, nodding towards me. Dylan's smile is overwhelming. Up close, he radiates a sexual aura that enthralls me. Immediately, I smile and genuinely feel happiness soar through me as he takes my hand in his warm, calloused one. Hi there. I try to be as casual as possible, even though he has made my nerves jump to new heights. Hi there yourself, he says. I'm glad I finally get to meet the famous Jessica. Ginny talked about you a lot. I can't believe these people know about me when I can barely remember my aunt. I wasn't even aware she was alive or that this community still existed less than 2 hours from my home in Manhattan. My thoughts must have given me a slightly panicked expression because Lauren jumps in to remedy Dylan's bluntness. It's okay, she says to me. We know Ginny wasn't in touch with you and that you didn't know that she was tracking you all these years. She only said good things about you, Dylan adds as I gently release his hand. This is all new to me, I say. 24 hours ago, I didn't even remember that Hera existed. And now I'm meeting all of you and hearing about my aunt. It's like finding out about a parallel existence in a way. I know that sounds dumb. I also now feel sort of dumb for saying that. You're right, dear. You were a specter in this town. Ginny talked about you for years, so we knew about you. But you had no real memories of Ginny and our little town here, Archie says, pushing his plate away. My parents should have told me all of this. It would have been a sad, nostalgic moment for me to ponder about not having Aunt Ginny in my life. But Dylan leans on the counter between Archie and me, filling up the space with his ruddy masculinity. And all I can do is swoon a little bit. I say, we go to the house and jog your memory a little bit, Dylan says to me. That's the plan, Archie says. I'll go with you and give you the tour. I know that place better than anyone. Carson and I are still working on Ginny's to-do list, Dylan says with contagious enthusiasm. List? Dylan and Carson, that surly man in my office, have been doing a significant amount of carpentry for Ginny, Archie says. And now Dylan and his brother work for you. That's right. You're my client. Dylan smiles. That sounds like fun, Imogene says, approaching us with an armload of dirty dishes. But Lauren, it's time for you to get back to work. Lauren gives Imogene an exaggerated eye roll and pushes herself away from the counter. Archie is going to convince you to stay, at least for a while. So Lauren and I will be up to visit you at the house real soon, Imogene says. And, Jessica, I'm very sorry for your loss. I'm sorry you didn't get to know Ginny the way we did. As Imogene and Lauren leave to attend to customers, sadness and guilt sweep over me at the image of Aunt Virginia. To think I could have had someone besides my parents to lean on through my lonely years as my parents' only child, their prodigy. It would have helped me tremendously. Archie pats my hand. It's too hard to explain here, he says. Dylan, bring that monstrous vehicle of yours around front, and we'll take Jessica and her luggage up to the house. My pleasure, Dylan responds while looking at me. I have a stupid grin plastered on my face, like the inexperienced geek that I am. 4. After Dylan fetches my bags from Archie's office, he comes back to the diner in a red Jeep Wrangler that is caked with so many layers of dried mud that it makes me wonder what this guy does for fun during his downtime. The hard top has been removed from the vehicle, which I suppose is to be expected from an athletic guy who looks like he spends most of his time outdoors. Archie is put off by the general filth of the vehicle and lays a hanky on the front seat before buckling himself in. I climb the back seat, and Dylan gives me another smile accompanied by a wink in the rearview mirror. That winking, smiling business is going to be the end of me. I can see how it can manipulate women like an addictive drug. I put on my sunglasses to block out his power, yet it doesn't seem to lessen his charm one bit. He keeps glancing at me in the mirror throughout the drive, and I'm pretty sure he can tell I'm looking at him even with my sunglasses on. It's about a 10-minute drive to Aunt Virginia's home, off the main street and through roughly paved roads that have little to no traffic. I only see a few old homes along the way, most of them far back from the road with long, dirt driveways and acres of wild land. It's green, lush, and absolutely nothing like my city life. As we bounce along a particularly bad road, Archie holds onto the roll bar above, and an insect flies into my mouth. I'm horrified and struggle to spit it out while Dylan laughs loudly as he watches my comic antics through the rear view mirror. Okay, bugs in mouth. That's one check against Hera. Hot, gorgeous guy in Archie's office and cute guy who drives a rough and tumble Jeep with a sexy laugh to boot. That's worth at least 10 checks for Hera. There it is. Archie yells over Dylan's grinding gears as he downshifts to climb up the dirt road to a large Victorian house. Wow! The home is painted a hunter green with brown shutters. Since I have only lived in small New York and Cambridge apartments my whole life, any house seems large to me. However, Aunt Virginia's house, well, my new house, is outright huge. It has an incredible wraparound porch and at least 3 stories with actual turrets and alcoves. It's beautiful, like a walk back in time to the 1800s, and I fully expect to see a woman with her hair piled on her head, dressed in a vintage white linen dress, gliding out onto the porch or veranda with an iced tea. My imagination gets away from me as I analyze this enormous house that looks much too big for someone as small as me. Seriously, this is a house for a big family or a bunch of ghosts who are into some serious haunting. Wait until you see the inside, Jess, Dylan says. It's a masterpiece. I'm still stuck on him calling me Jess, as though we already know each other so well. As I push myself out of the Jeep, Dylan is instantly at my side, holding my arm to assist with the jump to the ground. But right as I'm about to step out, he grabs my waist with both of his hands and lifts me out. Oh, I say, startled and feeling incredibly brilliant with words because a handsome guy has surprised me. Thought I'd save you a step or two, he says, still keeping a firm grip on my waist. I raise my sunglasses and prop them on my head, but can think of nothing to say to him. Come on, let's go. Archie shouts with his back to us, already halfway up the stone path to the front door. Ah! Dylan puts his hands down and studies my face. It's nice to finally have you here. Thank you, I say awkwardly. Despite the circumstances, I think I'm happy to be here too. At least, I'm intrigued. I head up the walkway after Archie, and Dylan follows close enough behind me that I can hear his soft breaths. I've only just met him, however, this feels good and it seems right. I look up at the magnificent house and then at the blue sky as I wonder why my aunt orchestrated all of this for me. The first step creaks and sounds loose, but it's okay, Dylan says as we take the wide, wooden staircase up to the porch where Archie is waiting for us. It's on our list. What list again? Carson and I have been working for Jenny for the last 3 months, redoing floors and cabinetry. Right now, we're working on the bookshelves. Jenny decided that she wanted to fix up the whole house and add some new things, Archie adds. Why? I mean, she was IL. Why did she want to work on the house? Oh, God. I'm sorry. That was a callous thing to say. No worries. She did this for you, dear, Archie answers. It's a great house, Dylan says. Great bones. Jenny wanted to preserve it even if she couldn't. Be here to enjoy. She talked about making it a special place for you. He pulls a set of keys out of his jean pocket and unlocks the heavy front door that looks ass. Though it has been stripped and re-stained with a stunning vintage door knocker added for those who don't know how to work a doorbell. I then realize there is no doorbell. Dylan pushes the door open and lets Archie go through first. As I proceed to fall out, Dylan jumps in front of me and I slam my nose into his hard chest. Ow! Sorry, before you go in there, I want you to know that the whole place is a work in progress. Some rooms are pretty dirty, and we have equipment everywhere. I rub my nose and look up at him. Hera sure produces tall dudes. I judge Dylan to be about 6'2", shorter than Carson, but almost a foot taller than me. It's fine. If you saw my apartment, you wouldn't even be worried about such things. Dylan, you're going to be staying here, and I want to make sure you're comfortable, he says softly, so Archie can't hear, I presume. Don't worry. Your room hasn't been touched. Yet. He grins and the heat rises in my face. What does yet mean? Yet he's going to actually repair things in my bedroom? Or, yet, meaning he's going to touch something in my designated bedroom? And why does my brain go on and on with these sexual thoughts? While I have these thoughts, he grabs my hand and leads me into the grand entryway. It's a mansion, I state, taking in the polished wood banister and staircase that winds up 3 more flights. No, but it's very large and requires quite a bit of upkeep. Archie appears from another room, glancing at our hands with his eyebrows arched. Dylan is still clenching my hand, so I wriggle mine out and begin to walk around the front hall with a nonchalant air to shake off the Dylan effects. This young man is a little tuckered out, and yes, I'm referring to me, so I'm going to perch myself in one of those comfy wingbacks. Archie walks back into the living room towards the only chair not covered by a plastic tarp. The rest of the furniture has been pushed to one side and covered so a table saw and equipment can utilize most of the space. Archie leans and falls into the chair, as any stiff octogenarian might, and the image of him makes me think of Aunt Virginia, sitting there reading her paper as she drinks her morning cup of coffee while Dylan and Carson work around her sawing away at something. In my vision, they make a racket, yet Aunt Virginia welcomes the noise and the company of 2 energetic, handsome men. Then, when it is time, she will make them a lunch that they'll enjoy on the porch's wicker dining set. Maybe it's the town or the home from another era, but somehow I think my aunt had a wonderful life with her makeshift family, and it was much more interesting than the one I lead. Dylan, give this lovely girl a tour of her home. You know these walls better than anyone, Archie instructs. Absolutely. Dylan turns to me. Come this way, lovely girl. I follow him up the winding staircase, and while I admire the rich buttery tones of the wood paneling and the modern touches of contemporary paintings to make the home brighter, I'm really focused on Dylan's cute backside. I try to suppress a giggle. I never find myself in these types of situations, and it's highly amusing that I have this hunky guy to myself. Dylan reaches the first floor and spins around. What lovely girl, he asks. What's so funny? You're bruising my ego with all that giggling behind my back. Nothing. I'm still in shock at being here, I think. And don't call me lovely girl. It's sweet coming from Archie, but it's a little smarmy coming from you. Dylan's smile fades, and that alone makes me waver. I was only teasing him. I don't really think he's the smarmy type, so why did I say something that could possibly be hurtful? I'm sorry. It wasn't intended to be creepy. My fault. I'm very defensive. It's part of being an only child driven by obsessive, demanding parents. I give him a weak smile and a nervous laugh. Dylan studies my face intently. For once I don't blush and look away like I normally would. I take in his baby face, good looks with his big blue eyes and full lips, and I know that he must have been very popular in school, while I would have been the shy girl who watched him from a distance. I don't know how long the moment lasts, but it could go on forever for all I care. For the first time, I don't have to rush off to a class or work. I don't have to bury my head in front of a computer to get a job done, and I don't have to dance with a guy whose attractiveness disappears the minute he opens his mouth or puts his hands on me in a way that gives me the wiles. For once, I can breathe and simply stare at this person in front of me. Why would you be defensive about a compliment? I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times before, he says, sounding more serious. Heard what before? I ask, distracted by our physical closeness as well as my wandering mind. That you're beautiful, he answers. I'm still studying his lips that said beautiful before I understand what he's saying. Oh no. I mean, there's always someone who will say something flattering, but for the most part, my parents only complimented my grades and test scores. I say, listening to how stupid my explanation sounds. Your boyfriends must have told you how pretty you are. You know, attention from guys who aren't Archie? Guys under 100? I laugh, but I don't have an answer for him that doesn't make me look pathetic. Yes, I'm 20, but I've never had a real boyfriend because I'm a serial dater. One date per guy, and then I dump them in disgust because I'm the smart, pretty girl who only attracts jerks. Please don't tell me you're a jerk, because I'm having too much fun for this to end. Okay, sure. Guys have complimented me before, so thank you for the compliment. Now, let's move on. I forge ahead and end up in what must be the study. I scan the room, which is fill-ed with leather couches, the old, cracked kind that you can sink into, stacks of books on the floor and in boxes, an immense desk piled with more books, a full wall of bay windows that overlook hills of green, and 2 walls of built-in bookcases that are unfinished. This is the library. Carson and I have to finish the shelving and stain it, and when it's done, we're going to load about 4,000 of Ginny's books in here. And what do you mean, let's move on? Am I making you uncomfortable? This room is fantastic. I ignore his question. I can totally picture myself sitting at that desk with my computer and looking out at that incredible view. I have my back to Dylan now, and I'm hoping that will stop him from asking about my personal life, or rather, my sorry-ass dating life. Nope, that doesn't stop him. He barrels around the desk in his big, dirty work boots, stomping on my newly inherited floor, and gets right in my face. Can I assume by your obvious jitteriness that you don't have a boyfriend? He asks, putting his hand on my arm. His confident smile is back. No boyfriend. Cringe. Admit defeat. Shit. Excuse me. Shit, he repeats. Bingo. This is usual why when I discover a guy is an ignorant, Illinois iterate Neanderthal, and I lose interest. Actual why, Dylan, you've made it farther than most guys. You've held my interest for almost a full hour. I shake off his hand, walk to the window, and pretend to take great interest in the large, ancient trees in the yard. So, when is all this renovation work going to be done? I ask, facing the window. When are you and your brother going to be out of here? Oh, wait a minute. He laughs and turns me around. You aren't getting rid of me that fast, and you aren't leaving this town without me getting at least one date with you. I just met you. How do we go from talking about finishing bookcases to going on a date? No, you think you just met me. I've known you for years. Look around this room. Really, look. I don't know what he's getting at, but I look around the room. I see paintings on the floor, leaning against the wall. The paintings of people and abstract backgrounds are familiar. Maybe something Aunt Virginia painted years ago. At least she and I have our art in common. Then the sun comes through the window and strikes a swath of golden light across the wide pine planks and the cracked leather couch, and I remember those paintings hung on the wall where the bookcases are currently being built. How do I know this? Another memory assaults me. I am jumping off the couch and being chased by a laughing boy. We hide under the massive desk, covering our mouths to suppress the laughter. Another voice calls our names. It's another boy, older than us. We hear him jump on the desk. He jumped on the desk to scare us, I say, staring at the distance between the couch and the desk caught in the sunlight. What? Dylan asks. I turn back to him, and I can tell he is excited that I'm remembering. Something he knew all along. It's you, I barely whisper. Dylan puts his hands up to my face. He is gentle, but his firm touch and his scent give me a pleasant jolt. Do you remember me? I've been here before. In this room. Dylan nods, though he doesn't let go of my face. You were the boy hiding with me under the desk, right? Yes. You were 5, almost 6, and I was 8. We were hiding from Carson. Ginny and your mom had him babysit us while they went to the farmer's market. Carson jumped on the desk to scare us, and we were laughing. I notice I'm shaking. Dylan lets go of my face and rests his hands on my shoulders. Yes, that was us. In this room, laughing. I remember everything about that summer you lived here. I lived here the whole summer? Dylan nods his head. Carson and I lived here. That summer, too, and you and I played together every day. I didn't think I could stand being with a 5-year-old, but you were so smart, and we had a lot of fun together. It was right after my mom died, and Carson became so serious. He was 11 and felt he had to watch over me. He stopped being fun, and then you came to town. I take in everything he is saying and will myself to remember more. Dylan moves closer and puts his head down to mine. I've been waiting for you to come back. There is so much longing in that statement, but then I think I understand where it's coming from. We were children, and maybe he feels I'm like a long-lost friend, Perhaps someone very special to him, because I was regarded as unique. I was the smart, mouthy little girl who could play with boys and often act older than my age. I feel a soft, forceful mouth on my lips. I open my eyes at the same time I accept Dylan's kiss. We both pull back simultaneously. I am confused and nervous while Dylan simply looks amused. I missed you, Jess. I've thought about you a lot over the last 15 years. I can't believe you remember me. We were little kids, and it was one summer of hide and seek and the baby pool. I remember that crappy little pool. Dylan laughs. The baby pool that Carson would always turn over to make us miserable. Or he'd chase us with the water hose. Remember? My God, I do. We were the troublemakers, and he was the warden. Don't feel sorry for Carson. He got paid some mighty fine coin to watch over us. He didn't say anything when I saw him at Archie's office. He barely acknowledged me. Think of the cold greeting I received from Carson earlier that day. Dylan shrugs. It's been hard for Carson. He was devastated when our mom died, and he felt it was his job to be the man of the house. Our dad was still alive then, but her death didn't stop him from disappearing for weeks at a time. Ginny took us in. We had a home with our dad, but when he was gone, missing or whatever you want to call it, we stayed here with Ginny. I didn't know any of this, I say with regret, but also with a touch of mounting anger. My parents didn't stay in touch with my aunt, and I didn't know what happened. I didn't know she was still alive. All these memories faded. I was getting worked up and about to cry. I know. Dylan's hands are back on my arms to comfort me. I know, Jess. I know everything. But we promised we wouldn't find you and tell you. We promised, Ginny. But I'm here now. Are you going to tell me what's going on? You better believe it. I've been waiting for this day. Come on, let's finish the tour to jog those memories, and then we'll sit down with Arch to go over things.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Like and subscribe to help me grow.